I want to focus today on the responsorial psalm refrain. The precepts of the Lord give joy to the heart. And then also some of the lyrics from the songs that Tim providentially chose for this weekend. Particularly the first song, I will choose Christ, I will choose love, I choose to serve, but where it says, I give my heart to you, to God. And then the first verse, how many times must he call my name and show to me that he is God? I'm going to focus particularly on ways and how many times God shows to us, in this particular instance, why this is timely for me, of God showing himself to me and helping me keep in mind that he's guiding my steps and he's with me and likes to do sometimes mischievously providential things. And then finally, the second verse, Christ my teacher and healer. Healing is very significant to me of late. Teach my heart and heal my soul. The heart keeps coming up in these songs and in the scriptures today, and it's very timely to me. So some of you know, and if you don't, then this will be the first time that you'll hear this, obviously. I have two heart conditions, which are chronic and mild. Okay? So I'm fine. My cardiologist assures me I'm not at all on the cusp or the verge of a heart attack or anything like that, but it's just mild discomfort that happens with some exertion. And we're working on it with medication and the like. So it's mild and chronic. But last weekend, actually starting maybe Thursday or Friday last week, it was crossing the line from mild and chronic to acute. So those of you who know anything about medicine or other issues in life, the trifecta was coming to me: increased frequency, increased duration, and increased intensity of this upper chest pain throughout the weekend. And so finally got to the point where I had one of the men in my house, Bishop Peters, it happens, take me to Providence, Portland Emergency Department Sunday afternoon. So I don't want to go into the medical details, but here's the thing. I hope all of you were here last weekend. Remember that the primary focus of my homily last weekend was this book that I mentioned that I was reading by an evangelical Protestant pastor, writer, and teacher. The book called Practicing the Way. And the book has a green and black cover, and I had the book with me. Again, does this ring a bell for you who were here last week? I'm looking for some nods here, people. Okay, thank you. It's like, hello. So anyway, so I had the book. You saw the book, green and black, little book, green and black cover, Practicing the Way. So I had it with me in my shoulder bag when I left church. And then I had it with me when I took my shoulder bag to the emergency room when Bishop Peter took me. So, blessedly, the emergency room was fairly empty. And so as I looked around and what I thought was randomly choosing where to sit, there was one youngish person, maybe 20-something, maybe early 30s at most, a young man sitting in one section. So I chose that section for no particular reason that I knew. And as I got closer, I could see that this youngish man was reading a book, a small book with a green and black cover, Practicing the Way, the book that I had just preached about and had it with me. Here's somebody at the emergency room at the same time reading the same book. And I just looked up. I said, okay, Lord. You're here. You're guiding my steps. You're with me through this. You're 8:28ing this. Remember that idea of taking Romans 8:28? God works all things together for the good and turning it into a verb. So that was definitely an experience of God 8:28ing whatever this person was going through medically and my heart situation. So we got to talking, and it turns out he's a young pastor of some non-denom, I gather, evangelical church out in Gresham. Something must have led me to tell him. I definitely told him I was a Catholic priest because I wanted him to experience this ecumenical bridge building, that here's a Catholic priest reading this book by an evangelical pastor that he's also reading. So I think I must have mentioned that I was 40 when I was ordained a priest, because he asked me, well, what led you to sense God calling you to priesthood? And Bishop Peter was sitting right next to me. I didn't say that he was a bishop, but I did say, well, this brother of mine is also a Catholic clergy. He's a lot responsible for it because we're in this Christian community together, and initially was founded to be laymen feeling called to celibacy with no sense of becoming priests. But eventually Bishop Peter and another member felt called to the priesthood, and initially I didn't. So I condensed that into an elevator speech, as they say to this guy, and just said he was particularly responsible for getting me to feel led to the priesthood. Then I got called into the exam room to start the test and all sort of thing. And while I was gone, Bishop Peter kept talking with him and found out the emergency that he was undergoing. And Bishop Peter offered to pray with him. In the spontaneous, impromptu, conversational way of prayer that I have been talking about and that I'm encouraging among us to grow into. But be honest, right, for many of us Catholics, we're just not used to that. But I want us to get used to that. I want to encourage you to grow into this other way of praying, just conversational with God, impromptu, spontaneous. So they prayed about that, and I don't know, but it feels to me like God was up to something with Christian unity for this young-ish Protestant evangelical pastor to meet a Catholic priest who was reading and preaching from the same book that he was reading from, that's by a Protestant, and then for Bishop Peter, as a Catholic clergy person, to pray with him in that impromptu, spontaneous way. So all else that was happening, I really did feel like God was at work making good out of what was happening to me and this other guy. So then, just to reassure you, we think what happened was my body was reacting to a small gap in my medications, that one ran out before I was able to get the refill. So they did put me in the hospital. I was there Monday night, Sunday night and Monday night. But I was fine even by the time I left the emergency room and was transferred to a normal room when they gave me the medication I hadn't had for a couple of days and some other medication. So I'm fine and everything's back on track, so don't worry about that. But I just want to share that as an example of God's providence and God's guidance, right? And as Christians, terrible things, tragic things, mildly annoying things, all kinds of things happen that are less than pleasant or even worse or heartbreaking. But God wants to keep showing us that He is God, that God knows what He's doing, that He's guiding us and helping us through such things.